Hey guys, so I received a request on how to highlight with a loose powder. So I have these two here. My friend actually was like, she has the Danessa Myricks loose highlighting powders, and she wanted to know how to use these properly and how to not make a big mess. Which, loose powder highlighters, there's always chance of making a big mess with things like this. But the great thing about these is it does have a great sifter system. So when you first get the product, there's a plastic cover that you peel off, and like some spice containers, it has a twist cover. So if you twist it covering the holes, then you won't let any more product out. And if you twist showing the holes, then obviously you can shake more product out. What I like to do is, if your product is brand new, I think maybe this one is more clean. Yeah, so this one is cleaner because I just opened it yesterday. I like to twist it about halfway open, put the lid back on tightly, let it sit upside down for a second, turn it over. It should have let some powder out without making too much of a mess. Then go ahead and close it back up, and the product that is left in the container and in the lid is what you're going to work from. With these types of powders, you really don't need much at all. Take a brush that is about the size of your finger, or maybe a little bit bigger. If you start going in with a big powder brush like this, or a small brush like an eyeshadow brush, it's going to be a bit harder to control. The size of your brush, the density of your brush will influence how much powder gets flung up in the air and makes a mess. So I recommend a brush about the size of your thumb, and one that doesn't feel too flimsy. I don't think I have an example of one that's too flimsy. The flimsier the brush, the more the powder kind of disperses into the air, if that makes sense. I also recommend a natural fiber brush, if possible, if you're okay with that. If you're not, the whole vegan. Brushes like that tend to lay down the product more directly. They have started making synthetic brushes that are better, but synthetic bristle brushes have more slip to the bristles, so they don't grip onto the powder as well. So anyway, let's get into the actual tutorial. So what I have on my face already is moisturizer, primer, and foundation. Whenever you're putting on a highlighting product, you definitely want highly moisturized skin. The wetter your skin is, the better the product will stick onto your skin, as well as the smoother it'll lay down. So I'm not saying be a greasy grease ball, but definitely make sure your skin is nice and balanced and has enough moisturizer on there. Even if you don't wear foundation, definitely make sure you put on moisturizer. Before I put any highlighter on, I'm actually gonna throw on a little bit of powder. This is my setting powder from Charlotte Tilbury. Any setting powder would be good if you put on any kind of base, such as concealer like I did. Then you may want to set those areas of your face. This is ensuring that my problem areas that have textural issues looks a bit smoother. So any kind of highlighting product is going to emphasize texture. The whole point of a highlighting product is to bring out the planes of your face, so it automatically highlights texture, if that makes sense. So I'm gonna start with my Danessa Myricks in Light Pure Energy powder, and like I said, I am going to keep the sifter closed and just work with the product that is loose. If you are just starting out, you may want to work with the product that is loose on your lid, because there's probably less on there. In fact, that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to take my brush and pick up the product. On most face shapes, it's flattering to highlight the cheekbones. So the highest points of the cheekbones is where you want the light to catch. So I'm going to take the brush and sweep in a C shape along the tops of the cheeks. When I sweep back and forth, you can use a sponge to do this, but a sponge will disperse more product and it will become more intense. And when in doubt, just blend it out. So blend in little circular motions, back and forth motions, to make sure everything is nice and smooth. When you feel comfortable, go ahead and grab more product. And what I like to do, another tip, is if I feel, well, whether or not I feel like I grab too much product, I kind of like to do this, is just take this and tap the brush lightly off back into the lid so that the excess product will fall back down into the lid and not all over. So I'm going to continue to blend. And if you're like me and you feel like this is already too much, you can take either a clean sponge or your foundation brush or a clean brush like I am here and blend right over it, being generous with your blending technique. And that just softly diffuses any excess product and brings down the intensity. Now I like to build up intensity slowly, so even if I'm going for a blinding highlight, I want to start with a more subtle base and then go back in. If you're trying to get all the intensity all at once, you're going to find it's harder to go and blend it so it looks smooth. So just blending. What I like to do is on the second round, hit an even smaller, more precise area so that you're creating a blown out effect and then more intensity in the middle. And again, I'm going to take my other brush or other tool and just blend it. If you are too glowy in the center of the face, feel free to take more product and highlight the center of your face. So what I mean by that is take a light amount of product, tap off the excess, and sweep it down your nose. Depending on your face shape, you may want to emphasize different things. If your nose is crooked, you may want to avoid this because it can kind of accentuate the shape of your nose. A lot of people like to give a little extra pizzazz to the very tip of the nose. I personally like to do the tip of the nose but lift it just a little bit, the highest point of the nose, not necessarily the tip because it kind of drags the nose down a little bit. It's just all about subtleties. So don't concern yourself if you're brand new to highlighting about the exact placement. You'll get the hang of it as you study your own face more. This highlighter is a little bit dark for my skin tone. That's why I'm really blending it out because it's coming off like a blushy color. You can also take this and put this on the Cupid's bow, the top of the lip, and the chin if you like. One of my favorites is taking the forehead. So I like to put it right above the brow and maybe on the forehead. But that's because I want my forehead to look a little bit bigger. Some people who have big foreheads don't like to do that. So another tip is if you want that intensity, that glow, that dewy sheen, something really bright, then you can use a dampened sponge or brush. I'm going to show you with a sponge since all I've been using is a brush, but you can dampen your brush with either a setting spray like MAC Fix Plus, something with glycerin in it, or just water. And I'm going to use a dampened sponge. I use the sponge for my foundation. I'm going to use the butt of the end of the sponge. And I'm going to, again, tap out a little bit more product onto the lid. And I'm going to take the butt of the sponge and tap it into the product. Now, whenever you're working with a sponge with loose highlighters, you definitely want to go ahead and test out the product on the back of your hand. It helps to disperse the product because sometimes it can be patchy. So tap it out, kind of go in little circles to make sure the product is evenly dispersed, and then go ahead and apply to your face. Make sure your hands are clean if you're doing that though. Do you see that intensity we're getting now? It just becomes so much glossier. With something like this product, it looks really nice as an eyeshadow. So I'm going to take it on my finger and just pat that all over the lid of my eyes. Okay, so I finished the rest of my face, which included brows, mascara, bronzer, and lipstick. And I have one more tip for you guys, and that is using a setting spray at the end. This one is the MAC Prep and Prime Fix Plus. Basically what this will do is bring down any powdery look, just like using a really nice moisturizer before your highlighter, which helps it wear longer and go on smoother. This will make it look smoother, look more glossy and dewy, and blend it in while also making it last longer. It is an optional step, but it's one that I find really pulls a look together. Okay, so I hope that these tips and tricks were helpful to you. Let me know in the comment section down below if you have any other questions, or if you have any of your own tips and tricks to share with my friend. I would love to learn, and I'm sure she would too. Alright, thanks for watching. Love you lots. Catch you in my next one. Bye guys.